Rather than give you some canned stump speech, like I said, we'll make this two-way interactive for the most part. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Although I think you should go the other direction. I mean, people are very willing to say, we should make Congress subject to the same laws all the rest of us. I'd say no, introduce a bill that says if the law doesn't apply to Congress, then it doesn't apply to us either.
I'd be all for that. These guys love to brag about the legislation they all pass. I'd like to brag about, if I'm lucky enough to be your congressman in Washington, I want to brag about the laws that I helped repeal. Okay. The thing that resonates most, I'm going to tell about Bruce this afternoon, is, they're trying to control our lives every day. They take away liberties and freedom every day they meet. And I see in New York City now today, Bloomberg said they're going to ban soft drinks that have sugar in them. Are you kidding me? They tell us what we can drink. They tell us what kind of toilets we can buy. They tell us what kind of light bulbs we can buy, what kind of cars we should be driving. Get out of my life. I go back to Americans are not that stupid. I believe in Eastern Iowa. I believe you all are not dumb. I believe you can make great decisions as consumers for what's best for you and your family. Democrats believe, Bruce Braley believes what? Believes in government. It's like, get out of my pocketbook and get off my back.
The most insidious thing about the Fed, the way they inject money, is they don't simply buy the bonds directly. What they do is they loan the money at about 0% interest rate to Goldman Sachs and some of the other big financial institutions, and they in turn, with this borrowed money, buy the bonds and they get the interest. Why in the heck is that going on? If that isn't crony capitalism, I never heard of that.
Well, you answered, Michael. You answered. It's crony capitalism. Is another question, or?
Okay.
He answered the question. It's crony capitalism. Goldman Sachs, their executives and former executives, they have fingers into every area of our federal government, and it truly is incestuous, the relationship there. Lots of the Treasury secretaries are former Goldman Sachs CEOs. Correct. So you're exactly right. It's crony capitalism. I hate crony capitalism. I detest crony capitalism and subsidization of industries. They pick a favorite industry, solar power. They take your tax dollars and throw billions of dollars at solar power. I don't think the government, 535 suits in Washington, D.C., should be picking the winners and the losers. Right. How's their track record been?
They pick the losers.
They pick the losers really good. I don't know of any winners that they've picked. So we need to get the government out of the private sector to the extent possible. They should be there to referee when there's a disagreement legally. That's one of their enumerated powers under the Constitution. But they should not be picking winners and losers. I'm not for all these subsidies and this crony capitalism. I was a small business, a Main Street business. We don't get any of this, and I'm okay with that. I don't want any of it. But let's get them out of all business. Yes.
Further down the food chain on losers picking losers. City government in Burlington, Iowa, there's an article in the Hawkeye. If you drive down US 61, there's an empty lot. It was government-sponsored economic development, including a waiver on an eminent domain bill a few years ago by their state Senator Courtney. Okay, it went belly up. They're paying interest on that money. A new city manager came in and says, your books have been cooked. Right now, they are going to the Three Rivers Bank to get a short-term loan while they're paying interest on a failed project just to meet their payroll. A little bit just right across the bridge from Burlington and from you, the California of the Midwest, the state of Illinois. What are you going to do when these people come crying the blues over their stupid actions and want the feds to bail them out?
California, that's great.
Well, that's not mine.
I'm going to remember that. And it's so true, though. It's so descriptive of Illinois.
Had a deal on TV.
I'll get to you in a second. What am I going to do? I do not think the federal government, not $1 of federal tax dollars, should go to any state to be bailing them out. I mean, I totally disagree with that. California, Illinois, New York, they made their own problems. Like my dad said, you make your own bed, you lay in it. Okay, that's kind of the way I feel about this. We should not be in the business of bailing states out. I would vote against that 100% of the time. And if it was Iowa being bailed out, I'd vote against it. It's just not right.
Well, just to get to what he was saying, California is technically totally broke. And then, yes, they want the taxpayers and the federal government to pay for a high-speed rail that's not going to go nowhere.
Bridge to nowhere, high-speed, yes. Yeah, it's part of the course, yes.
Are you familiar with ICLE, UNESCO, et cetera, that is trying to bring in massive control by the Agenda 21?
Agenda 21. A lot of people don't think Agenda 21's real. I'm not one of those people. I believe it is real. I've seen it in action. You go to the United Nations, you just type the Google Agenda 21. It's rather frightening. This one world order and what they, for example, farmland they think should be owned by the government, and food production should be controlled by the government. And they don't really want private property. They can't trust us citizens, with private property. But Agenda 21 in Dubuque, I'll try to make a long story short. I'm a real estate developer. We're going to develop a 100-year farm that had been the same family for 100 years. It's 120 acres, just outside the city in a rural setting. Okay, we had the agreement with the McFadden family agreed to, so the finances were all taken care of. We're going to put 250 homes on it, $50 million investment over 15 years, until the EPA got involved. And the EPA then endangered species, endangered wetlands, Indian artifacts. They said they'd shut the site down if we hit an arrow or a clay pot or something like that. I said, with bank loans, we got to have be on a schedule. We have bank loans. Nope, we're going to shut it down, bring in archaeologists from Iowa State University, shut the site down. Then they said, get this, there's some valleys in this farmland. Okay, and they said when it rains, the water runs downhill into a valley. Hey, $100,000 a year. I said, thanks for that. They said, well, that water then runs into this little creek, I swear to God, it's not more than a foot wide, which runs into Catfish Creek, which runs into the Mississippi River, therefore this is now a wetland. It's under our jurisdiction. They said every square foot of valley you fill in, because as a developer you want to push the dirt from the top of the hills into the valley. Makes sense, level it all of it. Every square foot we fill in, we had to buy offsetting man-made wetlands in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I can't make this up. And I said to this federal guy from the EPA, I own 80 acres just outside the city of Dubuque. I said, if I wanted to fill in, de-water a valley, you pay me to do it. He goes, that's correct, we would. Unbelievable. Same federal government. So, but, to get to the Agenda 21, I met with the city manager in Dubuque. He invited me down to have a meeting with him, and he said, well, I understand you're having troubles with the EPA out there just outside the city. He said, why don't you come down to our warehouse district and invest the same amount of money? He said, we'll give you all kinds of help. That's Agenda 21 in action, right there. They want everybody into the inner cities, and they want to stack everybody into like cordwood, so you don't need a car. This is all there. You can go read it.
Right here.
You can go read on the website. Just type in Agenda 20. It's real. I've experienced it. It's real.
Downtown Cedar Rapids.
I obviously do not agree with it.
Cedar Rapids I believe they just adopted the International Mechanical Code, heating and air conditioning.
It always sounds so nice. They call it sustainability. Nice words like that. It's like, who's against sustainability? That's a good thing, right?
1984.
Yeah, and a lot of times you're labeled as an extremist if you even talk about Agenda 21. But it's real. It's out there. You can go
That's how
read
they
it.
keep it down so they can implement it.
Yes. Oh, is there a question? Yes, sir.
Well, backing up a little bit, you were talking about the 61% of our indebtedness that we
Yes.
wanted to sell wouldn't
sell
blocks,
last
so they
year.
sold it to the Fed.
Yes.
Well, okay, let's say that you don't stop that. Then we would not have that part of our debt sold, which would then push us right into the opposite of a deflationary situation. Or how would you overcome that? Because I could imagine you going into a deflationary, like if you say we're going to cut spending and you go into a deflationary mode, well then there'll be all these people screaming that you're discriminating against some group, and then you potentially set off a riot. So how do you overcome that aspect of the problem?
Yes, deflation is mentioned occasionally, but a couple things come to my mind is, first of all, if we couldn't sell the bonds, that would force these guys in Washington, D.C. to make some better budget decisions, I believe.
Yeah.
We can't be living beyond our means. We can't be spending more than we bring in.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
Well, yeah, but doesn't
But secondly, what would happen is we have to raise the interest rates.
Yeah, but doesn't
We have to raise the interest rates
the
itself.
total of the you know, like social security and Medicare and Medicaid or welfare and defense and then unbalance of trade, doesn't those all exceed our budget, our income?
Well, here, okay, let me answer your question this way. The last time the budget was balanced was, anybody know when? 2001. Not that long ago, right after Clinton. Remember that? We had a surplus. Well, with taking into account the social, like they've always done it. Yes, okay, I hear you on that. 2001, we had a budget surplus. Okay, what's happened since then? That's not that long ago, 11 years. What's happened is revenues to the country have grown 20%, even in a recession. I'm surprised, that's pretty good. Spending has doubled, 100% increase. We have a spending addiction.
Where did it double at? What kind of things was that?
Everything. I mean, every area of the budget. And particularly since Obama's been in there, particularly in means-tested transfer of payments. Okay, which is a fancy term for welfare. It's skyrocketed under Obama. I think it's increased 60 to 70%.
You're going to get people off welfare,
Under Obama.
change the welfare.
So I would propose we take spending back to 2008 levels, which is pre-Obama, pre-stimulus. That's about a $700 billion cut in spending. We need to do it over 3 years, not all at once, over 3 years. So about $200 billion a year in real cuts. And then freeze it there. Make permanent the Bush tax cuts. You know, we can't be having this debate every year. Are we going to let the Bush tax cuts expire or aren't we? If we let them expire, it'll be the largest tax increase in the history of the United States. And it's going to really impact small business owners because they file their taxes, it's called subchapter S, and individuals. Their business taxes are taxed like individuals. So, I mean, do we really want to be taxing small business in the economic times we have right now? No. So we need to make those permanent. I'd say permanent repeal the death tax. That particularly hits the family farmer really hard. If we do those things, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, which does the budgeting, and they're nonpartisan, they say we have a budget, we have a balanced budget in 3 years. 2015, 2016, we have a balanced budget again. So take it back to 08 level, over 3 years, freeze it, we'll be back to balance. We can't have a 15 or 20-year plan to balance the budget. Because do you trust these guys? That in 15 years, they're going to, come on, that's like a 400-pound man losing 5 pounds over 15 years. It's crazy. I don't trust these guys. That's why I support a balanced budget amendment. We need some way to rein in spending. So I support a balanced budget amendment and where we cap spending at a certain percentage of GDP. And traditionally, over the last 40 years, we've spent 18% of GDP as a country. So let's take it there to start with. Cap it there. Yes.
Even though you would be a freshman, do you have any plans to approach your colleagues or get on board with some of your colleagues to do something about the agencies?
Oh. I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. I'll often ask, hey, you're going to be one of 435 congressmen, and you're a freshman, what can you really get done? And the answer is you caucus with like-minded congressmen and congresswomen. I think the Tea Party caucus has about 70 people in Congress in it right now, which is great. And I think the Republican Study Group, is a very conservative Republican group, has about 180, I think 183. So if that group can get to be 200 or 220, and that's a big number.
What would you like to
can
do?
get things done.
What would you like to do?
Get government off of our backs, out of our pocketbooks, get the EPA and regulations under control. Now back to that point, is these agencies, how you doing?
You were flirting with me a moment ago. I heard EPA, government out of our pockets. I'm sorry, I think I'm one of those. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you. Keep talking, you're romantic, everyone here.
That's the owner. That's the owner?
Yeah.
That was not a plan. I don't even know.
One of the managers looks right here.
But it's government and laws by fiat. Agencies like the EPA agency are just willy-nilly on their own, and Congress needs to rein them in.
Government by regulation, not legislation.
Yes, exactly. As a Congress, we've given too much power to the executive branch. I think we've abdicated, one-third of the throne is supposed to be ours, the three branches of government. We've abdicated the throne, I think. And I don't know what John Boehner is or isn't doing there, or why he is or isn't doing it, but I think we need to get them under control. There's a piece of legislation called the REINS Act. They're trying to rein in regulations. Any regulation in that act that has over $100 million a year impact on business, what they want to do is take that one piece of regulation, bring it before the House and the Senate, and have an up or down vote on just that piece of regulation. By itself, up or down. You vote up or vote down on it. Everything that's more than 100 million impact. And that would be about, I think in the last couple of years, that'd be about 100 regulations.
When do we start?
So I would support that fully, and like I said, I don't know the inner workings of Congress, obviously, I'm not there, but we need to get these agencies under control. I mean, we've abdicated the throne. I would think Boehner should be all over this. Too much power in the presidency of the United States. Just like the president can detain a citizen now indefinitely, say that I suspect you of being a terrorist because I've read your email, by the way, and now we can send to Guantanamo without due process of law.
Right.
We can do that. That's in the NDAA Act. Yeah, just like roving wiretaps. We're in the Patriot Act. Patriot Act was passed in such haste after 9/11 that even the senators and congressmen, they even admitted, we didn't read it. They didn't read it. They didn't know it was in the bill. They didn't know it was in the bill. Pardon me?
Did they read any bill?
Well, I question it. I seriously question it. They're like SISPA, SOPA, the intrusions into the internet. And I always tell conservative groups, what's the best method we have anymore of communicating? Conservative groups. It's not the major media. Sorry, James. It's not the major media, is it? It is the internet. And I say to the government, keep your hands off my internet.